Van Alstein. Thank you so much for joining me here on The Social Academic. This interview series is about online presence for faculty, for researchers, and I'm so excited because today I'm going to be talking with Jo Davis. Jo is a writer, she's a faculty member, and she has this rich digital and analog life. So I thought this interview would be fun because you have this practice of doing things on the page, and I think that's different for some people. So would you introduce yourself, Jo?
Hi, I'm Joe. I am everything you said. um, I am a writer. I'm an author. I call myself a creative because I'm a little of everything. I do photography, art, and the coloring books. I'm also a film critic. You can find me on Rotten Tomatoes. And I teach mostly composition and rhetoric. I'm really big on that. So um, yeah, I'm all over the place, but there's a point to it. So um yeah, so I enjoy my career, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I am curious, when you do all of these things, it's probably kind of hard to bring all of those identities together. I know you have a website and you're on social media. What do you do to kind of balance things in terms of your digital portfolio?
I don't. so
Yeah.
uh, so I tried to in the beginning. I really tried to in the beginning because there were people that were telling me, my colleagues, that you need to have a niche, a focus, so that people know when they're recommending you, when they're thinking about using your work. Because I'm freelance writer as well, freelance journalist, and so they know what to recommend you for. But to me, that's like putting myself in a box because I'm all over. I like so many things, and I find so many ways to put them all together. So, like teaching the writing and rhetoric. Well, I use rhetorical analysis in my film reviews, and rhetorical analysis also in my journalism and cultural criticism. So, a lot of my articles you'll see where I'm picking apart either some news story or some a movie using the same thing that I teach in the classroom. Um, yeah, and
Ooh.
so with the coloring books and the photography, well, with my photography, when I explain the photos, the rhetorical analysis is there, and then with the coloring books, those are just sort of just my way of just calming down, coming down from it all, and so that's where I kind of put that in there. So it's almost like having this very busy, vivid world, and rhetoric, and exploring it and teaching it and writing about it, and then coming down by using the coloring books that I mean, and the coloring books are for neurodivergent people, so people who have a lot going on anyway. So my people understand me.
Oh, I really like that. What is it about, like, being on the paper and, like, doing something in that coloring book, or I believe you have a journaling practice as well. What is it about doing something on the paper that's different than, say, creating something in the digital space like you're writing?
So I'm a really old fashioned, and I found an article. There's actually been studies done that kind of explore the brain to hand type of thing and handwriting. So it's been known that there is a connection. There is a connection, and journaling. I know from personal experience. I know from teaching writing prompts that are like journaling prompts. And from feedback from my students and in my workshops, that journaling, when you're writing by hand, it causes almost like this trance like effect, almost like meditation, and it lets you get into your brain underneath, kind of underneath what you're conscious of. It gets you into all those things that you're kind of pushed back, that you're not really wanting to think about, that you're not trying to think about, but it does it in a way that's kind of guided, especially with the guided journaling. So the page for me, there's kind of this brain hand type of connection that unlocks a lot in the brain that I don't think you're going to get digitally, because there's so much going on the screen, you know.
I really feel that. Like I'm a writer, I'm a poet, but so much of the work that I do is through, the social academic, the academic designer. I'm working on websites, I'm working on social media, and that digital life puts me in a very different creative space than if I am like actually sitting down and taking notes, actually sitting down working on the paper. And so I actually try to intentionally create spaces in my work where I can do this activity, outside in the garden on paper, and how different that is for me, how generative it can be in just like this different space and different mode of thinking through things. Why coloring books?
Because I use coloring books.
Yeah, you use them.
I mean, that's the start of it. I actually started these coloring books to help me, because I was going through a divorce and needed to like stop the noise in my brain, the anxiety. I have anxiety. In my separation at the time was so chaotic. There's so much going on that my panic attacks that I used to have when I was younger came back, So having to calm the panic, calm the noise in my brain. I also was going through a lot. I had my two youngest kids in a new state. We were unhoused. We were living in a hotel, and I didn't have a job, so I needed to find work, find housing. I needed to get the kids established in school and everything, which I did pretty quickly. But that's a lot of paperwork. I don't know if you've never been in that situation. It's a pile of paperwork. It's really hard. And so when you're like, so your brain is so enmeshed in emotion to where you can't think. And my ADHD was on. I say 10 is the highest. My ADHD was like on 50. So I really needed to like stop the noise, and calming down was not even the point at that point. It was stopping the noise. And so coloring did it, but not for a long time. And it didn't do it all the way. And then I ran out of coloring books. And coloring books are expensive. And I had moved to Colorado and didn't realize how expensive everything else is in Colorado. It's like everything is more expensive, in Colorado versus Indiana. So I grabbed my kid's sketch pad and started doodling out coloring pages and started putting the numbers in as a way to kind of finding the numbers as a way to kind of hyper focus on the page, turn away from whatever whatever you were thinking about before, whatever you were obsessing about before, whatever puts you in that emotional state. It forces your brain to turn away from that and focus on the page. So there's coloring, which is soothing. Counting is a calming technique. Also, I bury the numbers where your eyes have to cross your nose several times, and then look up and down. That's like almost like it's called crossing the midline, and it's a calming technique, but it's almost like I think of it as self hypnosis in a way. In a way, it's not totally. So I don't want anybody to freak out, but it's almost like it gets you into that trance like state to where you are now focusing on this coloring page and you will calm down. There are people on TikTok who have actually posted reviews saying they calm down when they're doing my coloring pages. There's a woman who used my coloring book. Her sister brought the coloring book for her to use during her treatment. She has an illness, and she said she has to have 9-hour treatments, and she used the coloring book during her treatment session, and it just flew by. It just flew by. So I get it, and there are people. There's a lady with social anxiety. She didn't put anything on TikTok, but she reached out in Instagram. Not social anxiety, but with anxiety, an anxiety disorder, and she said just doing a page calmed her down. So, putting all those things together into one page. I also did it because if you have ADHD like me, you have to trick your brain. So it's almost like having to study with music on. You have to have something there for your brain to like focus on in the background while you're doing. So that's why there's so many things to do on the page. And sometimes people who aren't neurodivergent kind of find the coloring book to be a bit much, but it has to be a lot for the neurodivergent brain to really focus on. and to, quiet everything that's going on. And so I found doing all that in those pages. And yes, surprisingly, even though I bury the numbers in the page, I still have trouble finding them, which is the point. That's the point. And so they helped me to calm down. I was able to find a job at a local newsroom and was able to get a place. We were like only in the hotel for like 6 months. So yeah, they really helped.
Oh, it sounds like the coloring books saved you in terms of your brain space and being able to move forward. I've been in a place of trauma and grief, and dealing with mounds of paperwork at the same time when I needed to get divorced after leaving a domestic violence situation, and I couldn't move forward. Like if I had something like this that could really have snapped my brain into focus on anything, anything, it would have been, I mean, life changing for me. Mm. What does it feel like when you're in that mode, when you are able to focus on the page, on the coloring that you're doing?
I can show you. I have a book here.
Yeah.
So one of the pages. This is Panic Pages for Pride. Um, so this is a book I did for Pride Month, and also because I wanted a space for my LGBTQ siblings, siblings, cousins, whatever you want to call it, community to kind of use because neurodivergents are everywhere. Let me find a page. But the point is, I have designs. My designs are kind of weird sometimes, but they're designed to be. Let me find one. Okay, this is one that I've used a lot. So this is not anything that's going to be like, yes, there's hearts. You kind of know what those colors are, but you're really going to have to be able to concentrate on the designs, the color of everything. Let me show you. So I think one is right there. So you're coloring this piece of this larger heart. So you're going to be thinking about, okay, I got to keep my design together. What color scheme do I want for this heart? What color? This is the flag. And if you're like me, I don't remember how the flag goes. I mean, not the flag, the rainbow. Sorry, rainbow. So I don't remember the colors of a rainbow and how they go. So I have to remember those and keep that straight, and then figure out the scheme for everywhere else. But the numbers are where you're not. This one here, two is not in this heart. It's not. Two is somewhere else on the page. So when you leave this heart, you've got to remember and then go to two. And so it really, it's almost like I call it meditation because after a while, the only thing you're focused on is finding numbers and keeping your colors together and figuring out, okay, do I want these hearts to be red? Okay, but they're going to be touching part of the red rainbow here. So do I want these hearts to be maybe pink? Okay, if they're pink, what's the background going to be? Is this a bush? Is it a cloud? What is this happening here? So that's what you're thinking about as you're doing all this. Is this like maybe a rainbow coming up from the ground, or is it in the sky and these are all clouds with stuff in them? What are you doing? And when you find 2 3, you're hopping from here to here. I can't see where the numbers are. Oh, two is right here actually. um and then 3 is over here. You're hopping all over the page so much to where that's all you're thinking about. Nothing else. There's nothing else going. And if you have, I recommend putting on music in the background. If you do, it's like you're in another world for however long this page takes, which is about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how good your number hunting skills are. So yeah.
Oh, that is so fun. Where can people find your coloring books, the Panic Pages?
So I have a TikTok shop if you're on there. So just go to Starseed Panic Pages. That's my account there. And then I have a Shopify account, a Shopify shop, called the Panic Pages Bookshop. You can find them there. They're also, I have a few on Amazon. I moved distributors, so they're not there anymore. The rest of them are not there, but there's a series of 10 so far. I even have Panic Pages for Resistance. So that one, if you're just, that one's for people who are frustrated with what's happening in politics right now. There's a lot there to get your everything out. And I do want to point out that my Panic Pages, especially one for Resistance, also has journaling pages in them. So, they're lined pages, so you can just write out And there are also journal prompts in here. Like one picture is the word calm, and then you're writing about calmness. The prompt tells you to basically to write about calm. So right here, and then there's a prompt in the corner, and then pages, because it all works to calm the noise. And so sometimes after writing a page, there's still some stuff in there you maybe want to jot down. That's what that's for. Um, and before, while I'm still tooting my own horn, I just came out with what I call the Calm Kit, which actually has 10 journal prompts, 3 panic pages, and then an essay by me, well, by me and about me. It's called "How Do You Get Out of Your Head, Touch Grass," and it's about how I discovered that going to nature helped me to get out of my head when I had postpartum depression. So, and it's interactive. So I figured out the PDFs, how to get the PDFs to work, and so it works on any device. There's also a coloring book that works with any device that's fillable, and they're both like $7 each, I think. Yeah, so they're digital interactive books. I'm like, oh yeah. So I'm gonna quit talking. I'm like rambling now, but yeah.
No, that is so exciting because I didn't know about that one, and so I think that that is a really good opportunity for people to explore. So, wait, where can they find that link? Is that on the Shopify or is that elsewhere? Oh,
So that's in Shopify. So the interactive, the digital ones are in Shopify. So
perfect.
it's panicpages.myshopify.com, or you can look for the Panic Pages bookshop. So
I love it. Now, you're someone who creates many things. I mean, you're a journalist, you're working in the media, you're working in digital video, all of these things. And so I'm curious, like I know that you like love that creative ability to do all of those different things, but how does your brain decide like, oh, this idea this goes with video or this idea this goes with writing? Like how does your brain choose?
I don't know. I don't know. It just I don't know. Maybe I know neurodivergents are good at pattern recognition, and so I kind of recognize that, oh, there's a pattern here. This connects to this. Almost like the Scooby Doo kids. It's like this thing connects to that thing, and maybe if I put those two things together with the third thing, then it will work. I couldn't tell you how it all goes because it's I don't know if you know anybody with ADHD, you know that we kind of jump all over the place. And the thing that triggers the next topic doesn't always make sense. So I could be talking about a shark, and then suddenly something about talking about a shark links me to cell phones. And then something about the cell phone links me to books. And then next thing I know, I'm talking about journaling. So I don't know how it works. I just there's a lot of inspiration, I guess. I don't know how it works. It just does. And as I'm in this space now where I'm fortunate enough by working in academia and teaching, that kind of allots me a lot of time to be able to work on these extra things, and I do a lot more just kind of following that ADHD, topic exploration is what you're going to call it. It's chaos, really. It really is. But I know that once I follow that train, it leads back to the station somehow at some point. So that's the best I can describe that. So
I have one more question that's kind of social media related, and that's, I first came across you because you had shared an article that you had written about a movie that you went to watch. I can't even quite recall which one it was, but it was so poignant when I read the article. I was like, I have to follow Joe on this is back on Twitter. So this is a while ago. And I think so many faculty, even if they're writers or journalists in another area of their life, like they struggle with that idea of like, I want to share my writing, or like, I need to share my writing, or I should share my writing. And so I'm curious about how you feel about sharing your writing on social media or the things that you create. Do you ever feel like you should or shouldn't? Like, I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
I'm all about sharing. What use is it if it stays in my head? I mean, it's not gonna work. I mean, it's not gonna do anybody any good staying in there. And Yeah. And it's like I tell my students, you have to share your work to find out, basically one, if it actually makes sense. Because sometimes in our brains, something, it seems like the next thing, the very, very next best invention since sliced bread, but when you put it on paper, it doesn't work. And you also share your writing because that's how people connect. You tell a story, and then and then I'm like, oh, I had an experience like that, and I tell a story, and then all of a sudden we found similarities, and we can like connect with one another. People also love personal essays because they find they have that I thought I was the only one type of recognition. Um, and yeah, and even with my film criticism, sometimes well, a lot of times I find myself pointing out little pieces and bits in a film and putting those parts together in ways that people may not think about the first time they watch through. So they'll have to go back. So it's like it's a lot of different reasons why I found that I share my writing. And I share everything because as as a writer, I don't know, there's something about having your writing and not sharing it that's like almost an itch that grows and grows and grows until you put it out. Does that make sense? So,
It does make sense because I felt that at times, but I don't feel that way about all of my writing.
mhm.
Honestly, I have a stack of poetry that I have not submitted for publication. I haven't shared like anywhere probably, and that's it's been years since I've done that. And so when I think about that itch, when I think about what I want to share, like I really appreciate the value of like needing to share that you bring into what you post on social media, because I really don't think everyone has that. And I really think that some people are afraid of that because that maybe they're like your students and they are like, well, does this work or does this not work? And like there's like this fear or hesitation that might stop them. So I love that you share everything.
Well, there's not everything. I do have like a
Mm,
series of short stories that maybe I may put out. I'm not sure, but I wrote them while I had postpartum depression, and they're actually horror
yeah.
stories. I actually
Wow.
kind of so my therapy was this is my therapist idea. I had really bad anxiety when I had postpartum depression with my youngest daughter. She happens to be a Scorpio. For those of you who are into horoscopes, so y'all know, you know. Anyway, from the moment she got here, it was just she was a great baby. It's just that my postpartum depression with her was like it was just I like my now ex-husband asked me how did it feel, and I told him that it's like I'm on Twilight Zone, and the with the clock that's like winding backwards, the dial keeps going faster, 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 and keeps getting darker, and you know how the clock just sort of goes in the Twilight Zone, it just keeps going and spreading and getting weirder and weirder. Yeah, that's how it felt. And so my therapist is like, channel that into a story. Tell a story. What kind of story can you tell using some of the components of your PPD? And so I wrote about 5 horror stories, and they're on the level of maybe Hills with Eyes and Saw. They're pretty yeah. The tamest one is The Prisoner, and it's a woman who's she's in her body, but she's in a cage in her brain. There's this figure of a man who's almost like a circus, one of those old fashioned circus tamers, lion tamers in a circus, and he's taunting her as she watches her body and someone controlling her voice, someone controlling her limbs, someone acting on her behalf with her family, and she's not doing it. So she has to watch this happening, and this guy's taunting her. And yeah, it turns out I'm not going to give away the end, but that's the story. And it's horrifying to think about it, but with postpartum depression you kind of feel like there's a separation between your mind and body, and you're on autopilot a lot. It was a way to kind of describe that. So
Oh, I want to read that collection of stories. That sounds really interesting. And what a interesting spark for horror. I think that makes so much sense. Oh, I'm fascinated by that. Oh, Joe, this has been such an interesting conversation. Is there anything you want to chat about before we wrap up?
I mean, I'm pretty open to anything, but I just wanted to say too
Yeah.
about the sharing everything. That
Mm.
itch comes only when there's something that I wrote that I was inspired to write by something else. And if
Ooh.
I sit on it for too long, it just sort of, kind of gets at me. But not it doesn't happen for everything. And I don't think
Mm.
it's going to happen for everybody. So some people who are out there is like, well, I wish I could share everything. Well, I mean, if you don't have that urge, you don't have that urge, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. It's okay not to share everything out there. It is so okay. It is so okay if you're the type of person, well, there's some things I feel compelled to share and sometimes not. That's okay too.
Mm.
So yeah, and it's if anything, I would like to kind of inspire people to kind of be their authentic selves.
Mm.
So I guess that would be the final topic is talking about that.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Is
Yeah.
there I'm curious, is there a way that, like, maybe you felt like maybe you weren't your most authentic self in the past and that you've really, like, embraced and, like, done more of recently?
Oh yeah. Oh
Mm.
yeah. There were times, and I wrote about it. So I when I first started teaching at universities, I taught at Purdue. I wrote about this. There's an article on Zora in Zora magazine that says that the English professor teaching MAGA babies is not all right. And I wrote about teaching in central Indiana, the at a satellite campus, and I was always the first black teacher these students had, and they were predominantly white. And um, I had a scripted way of going about things. I was really, really hesitant about being my authentic self. And turns out, my department was it okay with my authentic self, and I wasn't really giving them everything I'm given now, um, with the purple hair and everything else. Wasn't giving them all that, and I still it still did not go well for me. That was still around the time where I was like still listening to things I heard growing up, which most neurodivergents will tell you they hear the same thing. You're too much. You're too, too wild. You got to be a certain. You got to look a certain way. You got to dress a certain way. You got to talk a certain way. No, you can't talk about certain things at certain places. And that all came down to I couldn't be me, and that whole point in my life, I think just taught me that even when I'm following the rules, I still cannot win. During that time, I had a group of students who did not like my policies. Who went to my department head and told her that I was unapproachable as a professor, and they used a couple other that were dog whistly type terms to basically have my department head tell me that I needed to change my hair, my dress, the way I talked. I need to make myself more approachable to. And I told her, you're telling a black teacher, instructor, that needs to change herself to make herself more approachable to white students. She didn't get it. She didn't get it. And so I ended up saying that again to another um to her boss, and the look on his eyes just went wide, and he's like, okay, let's stop and talk about this. I ended up not going back, not teaching again. They wanted me to take a training or something, and I'm like, what? I at that point I'd published steadily in the Washington Post. I think I was publishing there. I'd published all over, and in places where they couldn't even break in. So I'm just like, I'm more experienced as a writer. Y'all trained me as a professor, so I don't need this. And I moved over to a couple colleges in Illinois and just sort of decided I was going to be me. So, and that was the start of me just kind of slowly letting myself just kind of unravel and be who I wanted to be. And now these days I show up as myself, and it's shocking how much that people just kind of relate to it and love it. I mean, at the University of Denver, my first we call it evaluation. My department head came to my classroom, and my students knew that they knew. I tell them I'm neurodivergent my first day. I mean, I introduced them to my fidget dragon, and no joking. I tell them tell them about it, and so they knew that I get off on tangents, and they we had a warm up exercise. We were sharing our writing, and somebody wrote about bumblebee bats, and she's like, I gotta show you this bat. You'll love it, knowing that was going to get. So we were derailed for like 10 minutes about bumblebee bats, and my my department head's in the back of the room, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm going to fail this. So I get everybody back on track. We keep going with the lesson. He talks to me about my evaluation later on. He goes, no, I loved it. It was fun. I loved the way. And so I'm like, okay. And he said that it was the way I related to the students, and just kind of went with the flow with what they were doing. I still got my lesson out, but he liked how I just kind of, I wasn't so rigid with the students. So that was great. It was great hearing that, but it was shocking at first. It was like, really, you thought it was fun? Okay, all right, okay. I'm not gonna push that too much. Not gonna push that too much. Yeah. So I'm finding out being authentically me is fine. It's perfectly fine. It's great. And I'm now trying to help inspire people to be themselves as much as they possibly can.
Oh, I love that so much. I feel like so I was adopted, and I feel like I grew up with a lot of kind of similar constraints on how I showed up, what I did with my time, even like my thinking process was like very constrained. And
Mhm.
so I feel like it wasn't really until I was an adult that I was like, what is my authentic self even? And so many of the professors that I work with, they come to me and they say authenticity is something that they want for themselves and they value. But that also comes with being intentional and like thinking about ourselves, which is sometimes uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Is there maybe like a I'm putting you on the spot, but is there like maybe a prompt or like something that like you might journal on to help you be more authentically yourself?
Yes, actually. Great segue, because I have a journaling workshop I'm doing on August the 8th and the 9th. And it's about writing a letter to your child self, your inner, and connecting, reconnecting. So I think that right there, going back to a time when you were kind of questioning, you were kind of wondering, or just any time that people just, because I it's some when you get to be my age, I'm 45, you're all the time thinking about, way back. Your nostalgia is all around us. So it's like, think of a time, of a memory. How old were you then? Who were you then? What did you want for yourself then? And so the work through the workshop, the letter to yourself is kind of the last journal prompt. But I have a couple of different prompts before that kind of get us working toward that letter. And at the end, that letter is usually, and I've done this prompt like twice now in workshops. First with the Dress for Success ladies at here in Denver, and then with Point Creative Supplies, the workshop. Both times, tears all around, men and women, because by that time you're people are thinking about, hey, what did I stay true to when it comes to myself at 14, 9, 16, even 21? Am I staying true to that person? What do I need to do to get back to whatever that person had goals for? And what are some of the things that maybe were, just a little bit of, far-fetched then, that probably are not going to happen, but what, just a little bit of that. I don't dwell on that, but it's like, what is it about me now that my person that I would be proud of if I could see myself, my 14-year-old self could see me. And then kind of writing to that kid and giving that kid instructions on how to find their own authenticity in their own way. So yeah, that's it's about an hour and a half. Usually stretches to 2 hours. So yeah.
Is that
I
workshop like open to the public? Like, can people listening
Yes,
to this register? Oh, it is.
yes, yes. So you can register in the Panic Pages bookshop. There's a sign up there. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm going to share the link to that under the video if you're watching this later and in the blog post. So August 8th and 9th,
Hmm.
probably 1.5 to 2 hour workshop.
Hmm.
And at the end, you'll have written this letter to yourself. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I'm so
Yes.
glad that came up. Is
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
anything
because I
you
almost
want
forgot about it.
to, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, that's it. I do. Well,
Oh,
yes, I do. So the workshop's on the 8th and 9th. That's because I let you choose Friday
oh,
night or Saturday morning.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect. That
Mhm.
will work for more people's schedules that way. I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Social Academic. I've been talking with Joe Davis about your analog and digital life. Joe, where can people connect with you after this?
Social media. I'm all over the place. So if you type in my full name and put an L in the middle of the Jonita L Davis, you'll find me on Instagram and Facebook. On TikTok, I'm Starseed Panic Pages. And then the Panic Pages bookshop on Shopify. I also have a website. It's my name.com, jonitadavis.com. There's also a panicpages.com. But if you find me on any platform, there's a list. What do you call it? Linktree. Linktree. There's a link tree that'll take you everywhere. So just
Okay,
find me one
perfect.
place. You'll find me everywhere. So
I love
um,
that.
yeah, you can also Google my name. I'm Google certified, so you can Google my name. You'll get tons of articles and everything else. So
Perfect. Joe, thank you so much for coming on The Social Academic. Just stay on for a second while we wrap up.